What's up, gaming heroes, and welcome back to another awesome World of Warcraft video. Today we are going to be looking at the UI in World of Warcraft. You've just created your character, you've got into the game, finally paid that subscription, and now you're greeted by this absolute travesty, which is a UI, and you want to make it look cool. Well, today I'm going to show you exactly how you can do that, and if you're looking to make it that much faster for yourself, I'm even going to put the import export string in the description below if you want to check that out. So let's dive in. Make sure to help this video you click that subscribe button, it really helps. To open up the edit mode for the UI changes, you'll need to go ahead and press escape or go down to the question mark here and open up the game menu. Then you can click on edit mode. From here, you get the option basically to have the basic version like so, or you can press the advanced version like that. I'm going to press advanced. I think actually I'm going to leave it like that for now, and then we'll do the advanced version afterwards. Now, you get kind of like the option of modern preset, which is kind of the modern version of World of Warcraft, and you get the classic, which puts the portraits above and everything like that. It doesn't really matter what you choose, but I prefer, modern. And then what I like to do is press new layout. We give us a name, subscribe to my UI video. Okay. And you get to select here whether this is character specific layout or if this is a general layout you want to use across your whole account. In this instance, I'm just going to use it as a general layout across the whole account. At this point, we kind of get to decide, do we want to have the things like this fancy artwork that Blizzard has or not? So we can click on this to edit it. And you get the option here straight away, hide bar art. And that's how you can hide these kind of like griffins here at the bottom if you choose to. In this instance, I am actually going to hide them because they are just going to get in the way for what we're trying to achieve. Okay, so at this point, we can just quickly press save and then activate additional action bars. This is going to make it a lot easier for just figuring everything out. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that X, then press the options here. And then I'm going to go down to where it says action bars right there. I'm going to activate 3, 4, 5 because I typically find that having 5 action bars is usually the amount I need for my characters. Then we go back to the edit mode, and here we find we've got additional action bars now that we can organize and figure out how everything works. I'm just going to go ahead and move this over to the side here, just so it's out the way and we can really focus on what we're dealing with. Now, the talking head, this is when you get like a quest and it starts telling you about the quest. That's basically the talking head. And sometimes, you can have it up here. You can have it wherever you want. You just don't want it to conflict too much with other buttons that you've got. So typically, I like to have this towards my feet section or above up here, just there, because I kind of find it quite useful. It being out the way. You want to make sure it's out of the middle of the screen because this is typically where you're clicking on characters and you aren't often going to see the talking head bar, so you don't need to worry about that. Your cast bar is quite an important one, and I think this should typically go towards lower than your feet, just above your bars. So I would just typically move everything out of the way and just get the bars to exactly what it is you want. So do you want 3 bars? Do you want 4 bars? How many do you want? I would put it something like that and put the cast bar on top like so. It just makes it nice and uniform, makes it look good, everything like that. Now I'm going to focus on working on these sidebars here because these sidebars are typically where I will keep like the Hearthstone, we'll keep consumables, things like that. We don't want this giant vertical bar. Instead, we'd much prefer it to be a bit more consolidated. So I'm going to change it from vertical to horizontal first of all. Then I'm going to change the amount of rows to 2 rows. And then because this is one of those things that I want to basically not be in the way too much, I'm going to make it quite a bit smaller. So I'm going to go ahead and make it about 70% of the typical size. And that's just because I'm not using it for spells and abilities. It's just to hold things like my Hearthstones or random consumables I'm not going to use in combat. I'm going to do the exact same thing for the other one as well. So change it from vertical to horizontal, give it 2 rows instead of 1, drag it down, and then we're going to go ahead and make it 70%. So it's the same typical size. Then we'll put these two together so that they look really nice and they kind of like don't stand out too much. If you want to move it and you don't want it to snap like it is doing, you can go ahead and untick snap to elements, and that will prevent that happening in the future. So now we can, we can press that control button whilst we're doing this, and it will allow us just to move it exactly where we want it. We can press that again, and that won't snap back now because we've already moved it, which is brilliant. Now, what I typically like to do for these action bars 4 and 5, because they're on the side, they've got all the consumables, hearthstones, and everything like that, I like to make it so they disappear when I'm in combat and reappear when I'm out of combat. So I always click this and I press out of combat, so this bar will only become visible when I'm out of combat. I'd like to do the same for this one here, and that way, when I'm in combat, I can really just focus on what I'm actually seeing and not the plethora of different action bars that you can possibly have in World of Warcraft. It quickly gets too much to deal with. Great, so that is actually done for both of those there. Now, what I would like to do is bring these portraits a bit closer to the middle of the screen, because when I'm doing combat, I want to be able to look towards my feet so that I'm not standing in any puddles that might get me slain. So I will always move my portraits a bit closer towards the center of the screen. I find this will really, really help you for the most part. Now, don't have them too low, because then you're going to not be able to see the actual buffs or debuffs on either yourself or anything you're targeting. Okay, there we go. We've got a nice setup there for the portrait. It looks really cool. We've got the encounter bar here as well. This typically isn't going to be used a lot, so you can really put that wherever it is you so choose. It's entirely up to you. It's not going to appear very often. It'll be quite a rare time you'll actually see that. So I'm actually going to put that encounter bar over here, as it's just one of those things I'm not going to see too often. Extra abilities. These extra abilities are things like when you're in a raid and you've got to press an extra action ability, this is what you'll typically press. I like to keep that here, as it's just something you don't typically see. Sometimes some people like to keep it here instead, and that is entirely fine as well. Well, I don't particularly like it being there because I like to have the focus frame there, so I actually prefer it right here. Then I'll move this focus frame across and I'll pull it just next to this portrait here, and I find that will really, really help. Some people move this pet frames to the side like so, but I prefer it underneath. It just works better for me personally. Then the vehicle exit button, I typically have that just below where we'll move that possess bar there, and then the vehicle exit button I'll typically just have somewhere around here, so it's really clear, really obvious where it actually is sitting. I think in this instance I'm just going to pop it around about here, as this is kind of like an area I don't typically often use. In World of Warcraft, typically, when I'm playing, I never really play with a stance bar. It's one of those bars that's just kind of not needed if you don't want to use it, and it's entirely up to you if you do use it. It's just one of those things I don't typically use. Remember, when you're doing this, sometimes it's a good idea to exit out of edit mode and just see how it's all looking for yourself. So let's try that right now. Okay, so let's just select someone. That's how it feels, that's how it looks. It's looking really simple, really easy. So far, I quite like this. I do feel that these could be lower, and that would definitely feel a lot nicer, though I could just zoom out a little bit more and that would actually be perfect. That's about usually where I play the game, so that's actually not too bad. Let's jump back into edit mode. This is where I like to basically make sure that my debuffs are quite big. They're quite important, debuffs are. You really do want to be able to see when you've got a debuff and you want it to be quite obvious. So I typically like to make this quite big, just so that it really screams at me, oh hey, you have a debuff, you need to be careful. Then on top of that, I like to make this map bigger because, I mean, it's just useful having a bigger map, isn't it? Let's be honest. This boss frames on the side here is only used typically in raid or sometimes PvP, things like that. You don't really need to worry about it too much. It's quite perfect to have it there. I like to move these arena frames right here. It works quite nicely. The tooltips, HUD tooltips, typically people just leave that down there because that's just when it pops up with some useful information. Then your equipment durability. This is a good one just to pop over here. You aren't really going to worry about, your arena frames covering it or anything like that, because more than likely you aren't going to have damaged equipment whilst you're in an arena. you can just put it like that and it will pop up really obviously when you are damaged. It is a good idea to make this a bit bigger as well, just so you really don't miss it. So we can go ahead and make that 150% and it should be really, really, really obvious. I'm actually going to move the boss frames on there as well. So just move these arena frames out of the way, put the durability right here, because this is where my quests are going to go. So I don't want that space filled for any particular reason. You're never going to have the arena frames and the boss frames active at the same time. So you don't really need to worry about those two conflicting. They can be in the same location happily. Let's go ahead and save that. Now, I feel like we're at the point now where we might need to start activating that advanced option. One more thing for me to change is the chat frame. I quite like having a bigger chat than typically other people might like, just so I can see more messages a bit easier, but some people like having a really small chat right out the way. It's entirely up to you what you prefer. I really like a chat box a bit like that. Pressing this button at the bottom right of the chat frame allows you just to edit it without you needing to mess about with the width or height or anything like that. It's entirely up to you how you choose to do it. So now we're going to press the advanced options mode, and you'll see there are some additional things here which will really, really help you, such as the cooldown manager. I'm going to go ahead and show you exactly how that works. So we're going to press save, we're going to press exit, and then we're going to go to our menu and press options. In the options, we're just going to type in cooldown manager, and this will allow you to basically enable it. If you don't enable it here, you won't see it when it's actually in game. So I'm going to go ahead and enable that right now. So it will only enable once you hit level 10. So do just keep that in mind. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to swap to one of my higher level characters so you can see what it does. Okay, here I am in my secret banking location, and I'm going to go ahead and press that edit mode, switch to the subscribe to my UI video mode, and now we're going to edit it from here. Again, cooldown manager isn't activated, so we do need to go ahead and activate that right now. So I'll go ahead and just type in cooldown manager, press activate, and now you can see you've actually got like a weak aura built in game without any add-ons needed. This is really cool. So here you can now see this is no longer grayed out. You can press cooldown manager and you can drag that up to actually see what it is you've got. You've got tracked buffs, then you've got your utility cooldowns. These are really useful just to see, and it's a good idea to make these bigger. There you go, they're nice and big now, so that when we're in combat, we can actually see what is happening without too much work or hassle at all. This is going to be useful just to enable you to do more damage in general. Your personal resource display. This is something I don't typically worry about because I can see that for myself on my party frames and my player frames really easily. So I personally don't use personal resource display very often. Boss warnings, however, is a very, very useful thing to have in-game. This will prevent you from dying in-game quite a lot. So always make sure you have that enabled, especially if you plan to do raiding. This boss timeline on the side here will tell you when important abilities are coming, and this will give you a pre-warning to move out of the way or to do something that your character needs to do to react to that mechanic to survive or help defeat the boss. So make sure that is activated. Brilliant. Now we're going to go ahead and activate the damage meter. Again, open up options and type in damage meter. There we go. This will now show you the default damage done. So we can go to edit mode again and we can move that down to where it is where we might want it. For me personally, I actually want it right above the chat so I can easily see it and it's never in the way of the party frames. The party frames are pretty much always going to be up on the left side of the screen, so I want to make sure that they are always there. Brilliant. That's actually completely done now. Now, if you want to make multiple windows so that you can record, for example, the damage done, and then you want to record the healing done, you can just press that cog button above the damage done, and it will allow you to press create new window. You create new window, and then you can select whether you want it to record healing or if you want it to record any other things like interrupts. Having this in Mythic Plus is really useful. Having like a dungeon, having a damage done, a healing done, and an interrupts is really, really useful. So now we're going to press edit mode and we can edit these pretty easily. For the frame width, I like to kind of go for the lowest frame width possible. And then for the height, I like to go for the minimum, but make sure it has at least 5 people in there. For padding, you don't really need a lot of padding, to be honest. It gives you a lot more padding than you actually need for it. So it's entirely up to you what you go for, but I typically like to go for like the minimum on that. It doesn't look as good, unfortunately, so I'm going to probably go for more of a 4 there on that one. Now, if you don't like the way it looks, you can just mess about with the default. You can have it default like that. You can have it bordered. You can have it thin like so. It's entirely up to you what you go for. So we can press save there, and then we can move these in. Now we can press escape and get out of the edit mode. And we can actually edit this healing bar to be pretty similar to that one like so. And then that way it's nice and simple. So that's typically how you could play the game with your both healing and damage done and everything like that. I'm going to go ahead and remove these just because I don't need them on this particular character. But if you did, it's pretty easy to edit them and to change them off this import if you do choose to import this. So let's press edit mode, and then we can just untick the damage meter. Boom, that's unticked. So now if I go to options and I press damage meter, we get rid of the damage meter. It's gone. It's disappeared. We don't need to look at that. I think in this instance, I'm actually going to move the stance bar to the left of the top bar and then actually move the pet bar down more and then the cast bar even further down. I think this will just make it look better in general. I might move these up slightly just so that they're not interfering with each other. And then that should actually look better. I'm going to have to turn off the snap to elements just so that I can move it exactly where I want it to go. And then we can move the cast bar up like so. That's brilliant. We can press save and then look at that. That's perfect, isn't it? I can see that this is slightly off. So I'm just going to press edit and then move this across slightly just because I can really tell this is going to have to be turned off on the snap again and tried again to make this look really good. Perfect. We can press save and that should look pretty good now. We're going to put snap to element again and make sure this cast bar is kind of centralized. There you go, lovely jubbly. Press save and press escape. Look at that, that's excellent. So that's if we're close, that's if we're further away. And let's just select someone so we can actually see what it looks like. There you go. So that's exactly what you'll be operating with. And this is really, really useful. Now, here's one final little tip. It's not really a UI tip, but it kind of is. It's going to help you a lot in combat to do even more damage. Press the options again and just type in highlight. Go down to gameplay enhancements and click on assisted highlights. This is going to really help you if you're newer to your character and you don't quite know your character yet. This is going to help you know which buttons probably best to click on to do the most amount of damage based off your class and your spec. This is going to basically give you a general highlight on your bars when you're just playing the game, and that's going to be really quite useful just in general. I used it a raid last night, and out of 20 people, I was the top DPS using just the button highlights. It was very, very, very useful indeed. If you are looking to expand your UI and make it look even cooler, I can recommend one add-on, which I really like. It's a pretty cool add-on. It is called sexymaps. Now, to edit sexymaps, you just have to press escape, click options, go to add-ons at the top, and then go down to sexymaps like so. And this will have a bunch of default presets that you can choose from, which you might like. Look at that. It's changing the map each time. Let's just make it bigger so you can actually see what's going on here. There's loads of really cool different ones that you might like. For this one in particular, I don't really want the outside to be rotating or anything like that. I'm going to go ahead and actually delete that one and only keep the inner one, as I really, really like how that looks just in general. Then I'm actually going to go ahead and just make it bigger as a whole. So let's just make it a little bit bigger and then move it across to exactly where it is you want it. Look at that. That's all done. We can lock that in now. And that's perfect. Look, isn't that a really nice setup we've got right there? I'm really happy with that. Let's try it on one of my other characters as well and just see what it looks like. Okay, I'm on one of my other characters. Going to switch to the new UI. And we've got too many action bars, so we've got to turn one of those action bars off. There we go. And that's the kind of new UI right there. As you can see, this whole stance bar, I don't typically use it. What I could do on this character is just put it right at the bottom like so. It's just out of the way. Or I could even pop it under here, which might even be a better place to keep it in general. So let's just press save. And, oh, that's much nicer, isn't it? It's much cleaner, much simpler. Then if we go to combat, so let's just find a target dummy, and then we can go ahead and we can show you it in action. Now, I do just want to turn on the cooldown manager, and then also I want to turn on assisted cooldowns. Now, if there's any particular version of this that you don't like to see, for example, you don't like the top bit, but you do like the bottom bit, you can just go ahead and press edit mode, you can click on what you don't like, and you can just press hidden. And it will always hide it. You'll never see it again. It's quite cool like that. So say we go into combat. We are now using the assisted. So we can just go here and just charge in. We use just the buttons it tells us to use. Nice and easy. And look, we're doing the damage. It's perfect. It's exactly how you need to be playing it. And it's super simple, super easy. And it's pretty fun to do like this as well, I think, anyway. Super easy. Look at that. There's no messing about at all. And we're just pressing exactly what it tells us. It's also got quite nice little like highlights of here of exactly what buttons and things we need to see. If we want to press edit mode again and make this show, we can have it only show when we're in combat as well, which is quite useful. So if we press save here, this should all disappear now and only reappear when we get into combat. So if we charge back in, you should see it activate. Boom, there you go. You can only see everything now, and it is going to tell you when you've got really important, abilities you need to be pressing and things like that. That's going to be really useful for you to, keep track of things and do the most damage or most healing possible. I really hope this video helped you. If it did, please hit that subscribe button. Please hit that like button. Help other people get their UI sorted today. If you want to import mine, check it out in the description. And if you want to help support this channel in the best way possible, check out gaminghero.io. It's a website that helps you play World of Warcraft at a higher level. Thanks for watching. This is Erosium from Gaming Hero, out.